Dolores thought she was ready. Her home was clean. Boxes were labeled. The garage was organized. She had done everything the books and videos said to do. Or so she thought. But one quiet Sunday morning, as she sorted through a plastic storage bin in her hallway closet, she found her mother's death certificate, tucked behind a pile of expired pizza coupons from 1994. That was the moment it hit her. She wasn't preparing her home for the future. She was preserving her clutter from the past. This isn't a story about cleaning. It's a story about courage, about love, about the quiet decisions that say more than any will or estate plan ever could. Today, you'll follow Dolores on the journey that changed her life and her family's future. You'll see how a 72-year-old grandmother from Phoenix, Arizona, turned a house full of just in case into a home full of peace. And you'll learn how you can do the same. Because Swedish death cleaning isn't about dying. It's about choosing to live with intention. And what happened when Dolores reached her hardest moment, surrounded by boxes of old baby shoes and birthday cards, may surprise you. It might even change the way you see your own life and the legacy you leave behind. So let's begin. Not with the hardest step, but with the one that made her daughter cry, not from sadness, but from gratitude. 1. The memory box that broke her. Dolores didn't expect to break down that day. She thought she was just going to open one last box, one final chore before moving on. But when she pulled off the lid, everything stopped. Inside were her daughter's baby shoes, a handmade Mother's Day card from 1982, a school art project with "I love you, Mom" scrawled in uneven pencil, a grocery receipt folded around a note from her husband that read, "Back in 5 minutes. Love you." Dolores sat perfectly still. The box in front of her wasn't just full of things, it was full of time, of people, of moments she didn't even know she was still holding on to. This is the step so many avoid. Because here you're not organizing items, you're confronting memory. You're asking yourself, what part of my life do I still need? And what part am I afraid to let go of? So Dolores gave herself grace. She didn't push through. She paused, breathed, and made one decision: to keep only what truly told the story of her family. She created 2 memory boxes, one for herself, one for her daughter. Everything else? She let go with love. No guilt, no shame, just gratitude that it had once mattered. When she gave the second box to her daughter held it close and whispered, "Mom, this tells our story. Not all the stuff. This." In that moment, Dolores understood. She wasn't erasing the past. She was honoring it with intention. And that changed everything. Next came the papers, not as emotional, but somehow just as heavy. What is one keepsake you've held on to for decades, and why does it matter to you? We'd love to hear the story behind it. 2. Paper cuts of the past. After the memory box, Dolores thought she was done with the hard part. She wasn't. Her next step led her to a tall plastic bin filled with folders, envelopes, and loose sheets. Some were neatly labeled. Most were not. Inside, she found old tax returns, bank statements from banks that no longer existed, greeting cards from friends she hadn't seen in 30 years, and manuals for electronics she no longer owned. And then, at the very bottom, folded in half, was her marriage certificate, sitting beneath expired coupons from 1994. It hit her all over again. Not in the heart this time, but in the gut. Because these papers weren't just disorganized, they were a history of postponed decisions. Every page said, "I'll deal with this later." But later had come. This step is difficult for many people, not because it's sentimental, but because it's overwhelming. There's fear of throwing away something important, shame over years of clutter, and the quiet worry that somewhere in that mess, there's a piece of paper you'll need when it's too late. So Dolores created a simple system. Just 4 categories. Category 1, essential forever. Things like birth certificates, wills, and deeds. Category 2, essential now. Things like current insurance, medical records, and recent tax documents. Category 3, review later. The few she wasn't sure about yet. And Category 4, let go. She gave herself 3 days. No more. And at the end of that 3rd day, 4 overflowing boxes of paper were reduced to 1 labeled file box and a small accordion folder. That night, she slept better than she had in months. Because paper isn't just clutter. It's a test of how we've lived and how we choose to leave things behind. With this done, Dolores was ready to face something she hadn't touched in years, the closet. But she wasn't the same woman anymore. This time, she had momentum. 3. The closet of illusions. The hallway closet seemed harmless enough. Dolores had walked past it every day without a second thought. But when she finally opened it with fresh eyes, she didn't see coats or shoes. She saw a mirror of her old self. There was a red wool coat from the 1980s that no longer fit, a handbag she hadn't used since her daughter's wedding, and a pair of heels she bought during a new chapter in her life that never quite started. At first glance, it looked like storage, but Dolores knew better now. These weren't just clothes. They were identities she had held on to. Some out of habit, some out of hope, others out of guilt. And here's the truth. This is where many people get stuck, because we've been told that keeping something means we're keeping the memory. But Dolores realized she didn't need the coat to remember the night she wore it. The memory was already inside her, so she kept it simple. 3 piles: keep, donate, let go. The keep pile had to fit comfortably in her existing closet. No expanding. No, just for now bins in the garage. If it didn't belong in her present life, it didn't stay. At the end of the day, she looked at the clean closet and felt something she hadn't expected. Lighter. Not just in space, but in spirit. Letting go of those clothes wasn't painful. It was freeing. Because it reminded her, she is not her past selves. She is who she is today. And the best part? The space she created wasn't just physical, it was emotional. She finally had room to breathe. And just in time, because the next step was going to challenge her in a whole new way. What's one item in your closet you've been holding on to for years, but aren't sure why? Share it in the comments. You're not alone. 4. The digital labyrinth. Dolores had no idea what she was walking into when she opened her laptop. She figured this part would be easy, just a few old emails and some photos to sort through. But within 10 minutes, she realized she was lost in a maze she didn't even know she had built. She had 47 different online accounts, 12 email addresses, thousands of digital photos, many of them duplicates, blurry, or completely forgotten. Documents labeled final version, really final, and use this one for taxes maybe. And not a single written record of her passwords anywhere. This is what so many of us overlook. We may declutter our homes, but our digital lives? They quietly expand until they become a burden no one wants to face. For Dolores, the shock wasn't just in the volume. It was in the realization that, if she passed away tomorrow, her children wouldn't be able to access anything. Not her bank accounts, not her photos, not even her final wishes. It was time to clean house, digitally. She started with the passwords. One by one, she wrote down every account she could remember. Then she reset and simplified them, storing everything in a single secure document, one her daughter knew how to access. Next came the emails. Dolores chose one email address as her primary and forwarded all the rest to it. Then she unsubscribed from dozens of mailing lists she hadn't read in years. Then she opened her photos and cried. There were thousands, but only a few truly meant something. She created labeled folders by year and by person. She deleted duplicates. She even took a few moments to name special files, so her granddaughter would know why that blurry photo of the kitchen table mattered so much. By the end of 3 days, her digital world was clearer, smaller, lighter. It didn't feel overwhelming anymore. It felt manageable, even meaningful. And for the first time, Dolores felt something she hadn't felt in a while sitting at her computer. Peace. Because digital clutter is still clutter. And our loved ones won't just inherit our photos, they'll inherit the mess too, unless we do something about it. 5. The myth of organized chaos. For most of her life, Dolores prided herself on being the organized one in her family. Her kitchen drawers had dividers, her bathroom had labeled bins, there were shelves in the garage, boxes in the attic, and everything had its place. At least, that's what she told herself. But when she really started looking, Dolores discovered something else entirely. She found batteries in 7 different drawers, tape in 5 rooms, scissors in 4. There were paper clips in her nightstand, rubber bands in the laundry room, and 3 hammers in 3 separate toolboxes. At first, she laughed it off. "Well, at least I always know where to find one," she said. But then she imagined her daughter standing in that same house, trying to sort it all out, wondering why there were so many of everything, and which ones, if any, were worth keeping. And suddenly, it didn't feel funny anymore. This is what Swedish Death Cleaning reveals, that most of what we call systems are really just hiding places for indecision. We put things away so we don't have to decide what to do with them. We spread them out so the mess feels less obvious. But it's still a mess. So Dolores created a new rule: 1 category, 1 location. She took out a notepad and walked room by room, writing down every category of item she came across: batteries, tools, office supplies, kitchen gadgets, cleaning products. Then she gathered each category into 1 spot. If she had more than what fit into a small, reasonable container, she made decisions. She kept only the best versions. The rest, she donated, recycled, or let go. Her drawer full of pens went from 27 to 6. Her scissors collection dropped from 8 to 2. She discovered she didn't need 5 kinds of tape, just 1 that worked well. And the change was immediate. Suddenly, mornings felt calmer. Cleaning took less time. There was no more guessing, no more searching. Everything had a purpose. Everything had a place. Most importantly, she realized that true organization isn't about having more containers. It's about having fewer things to contain. 6. The burden of someday. The kitchen was Dolores's favorite room in the house. It held memories of birthday cakes, holiday dinners, quiet morning coffee, and late-night talks over warm leftovers. But when she opened her cabinets with fresh eyes, she didn't see memories. She saw weight. 12 spatulas, 9 cutting boards, 3 cheese graters, a fondue pot she hadn't used since 1987, 40 wine glasses, even though she rarely drank wine. It wasn't just clutter. It was a mountain of someday. Someday, she might host a big party again. Someday, she might need 3 muffin pans. Someday, she might fix the broken blender, just in case the new one ever stopped working. Sound familiar? We all have our version of someday. It's the voice that says, "Hold on to this, you never know." But Dolores began asking a different question. When was the last time someday actually came? She thought about her own mother, who had saved piles of Tupperware, bags of rubber bands, and extra everything, just in case. When her mother passed, Dolores was the one left to decide what to keep and what to toss. And she remembered how heavy it felt, not just physically, but emotionally. So now, standing in her own kitchen, she chose to lighten the load, for herself and for her family. She started by taking everything out of one cabinet at a time. Then she grouped items by category: bowls with bowls, mugs with mugs, gadgets with gadgets. For each group, she asked, do I actually use this? Do I love using this? Would anyone else want to sort through all of this after I'm gone? And then she did something bold. She kept only what she truly needed, the best versions, the tools that made her daily life easier and more joyful. The rest? Gone. What surprised her most wasn't how much she gave away. It was how good it felt to open a drawer and find exactly what she needed. Nothing more, nothing less. Her kitchen became a place of simplicity again, not a warehouse for what-ifs, a place for meals, for laughter, and for connection. Because someday is not a storage plan. It's a delay tactic, and delaying joy, freedom, or clarity is a burden we don't have to carry. What's one item in your kitchen you're keeping just in case? Be honest and tell us in the comments. You might inspire someone else to let go. 7. Living with intention. By the time Dolores reached this final step, her house was quieter, not just in sound, but in feeling. Every drawer opened smoothly. Every shelf had space to breathe. Her closet was no longer packed with someday clothes. Her papers were in one safe place. Her photos were no longer buried, but beautifully displayed. But something was still missing. One afternoon, she stood in the center of her living room and asked herself a question she had never considered before. If someone walked into this home after I'm gone, would they know who I really was? Would they see what mattered to me? Or would they just see stuff? That question changed everything. This final stage of Swedish death cleaning isn't about another drawer or closet. It's about stepping back and looking at your home as a whole, not as a storage space, but as a reflection of your values, your history, and your love. Dolores called it her legacy room method. She walked through each space, not to tidy or declutter, but to ask what story each room told. In the kitchen, she kept the teacups passed down from her grandmother and donated the extra dishes no one ever used. In the hallway, she placed a framed photo of her wedding day, just one, and packed away the boxes of duplicates. In her bedroom, she kept her favorite book, her mother's rosary, and one letter her husband had written her decades ago. Everything else, she either gave away, recycled, or passed on with intention. Because this final step is not about erasing your life. It's about curating it, honoring it, choosing what you want to be remembered for, and letting that memory live in the spaces you touch every day. The result was a home that finally felt like her, not a museum of her past, not a burden for her children, but a sanctuary that reflected the best parts of her journey. Her granddaughter now visits more often. The house feels light, peaceful, warm. And Dolores? She's no longer worried about what she might leave behind, because she's already given her family the greatest gift she could: clarity, simplicity, love. Dolores didn't just clean her home, she transformed her life. What began as a quiet decision to spare her children from a future burden became something much deeper. She discovered that letting go doesn't mean forgetting. It means choosing what matters most and giving it space to shine. Her home now reflects who she is today. Not a museum of memories, not a maze of maybes, but a living, breathing space filled with peace, purpose, and intention. She no longer fears what she'll leave behind. She knows her family will have clarity, not confusion, gratitude, not guilt, and most of all, stories that mean something. This is what Swedish death cleaning is truly about. Not preparing for the end, but living more fully in the time we have. And you don't have to do it all at once. You don't need to empty your house in a weekend. You just need to start with one box, one drawer, one honest question. You have the power to shape your legacy, starting today. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to Golden Elders Insight. We share real stories and practical wisdom to help you live fully, love deeply, and leave a life of meaning. And now, we'd love to hear from you. What's one thing you want your family to remember most about you? Not just your belongings, but your values. Share your thoughts in the comments below. Your words could inspire someone else to begin their journey too.